up, YouTube? Jay Wilson here, JWill07 on Instagram. Just wanted to say happy Sunday to you all. I was supposed to upload a 39-minute food video that was supposed to burn your retinas and drown your eardrums. But YouTube wouldn't let me do it, so I'm going to break it up into 3 videos. The first one is going to touch base on some foods. The second one's going to touch base on some foods. And then the third one's going to be my conclusion on what I feed my fish and why. First off, I want to say I'm not affiliated in any way, shape, or form with any of these food manufacturers or distributors. Second of all my opinions are my opinions alone, and I apologize if I offend anyone. I have reached out to a couple of these manufacturers for some clarification, and I will get to that as I go through these videos. The foods that are in front of you are for display purposes. I did have omega-1 and Dainichi. I thought that the 39-minute video would load. It did not, and I did get rid of those foods. So I apologize that I do not have those for display. Thank you very much, and let's carry on. First up, Hikari Cichlid BioGold. I'm going to start and read the guaranteed analysis, and I pulled these off of the website. The crude protein is 45%, which is significantly high, but it's okay if you're just running peacocks and haps, which that's not me, as everybody knows. But if you got a huge mixed tank, I'd probably steer clear. Crude fat 5%, crude fiber 2%, moisture 10%, phosphorus 1%. You might have heard womp, 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 womp. But let's talk about what's inside. Now, Hikari BioGold. Most of you know Hikari was made by a gentleman that said, I'm tired of buying crap fish food on the market. I've been in the hobby a very long time, and I'm going to make a fantastic food. I don't know if he spoke like that, but that was my interpretation of him. And so he decided to put fish meal as the first product. Why would you put the byproduct of fish as your first ingredient if you wanted to make a quality product? So what he did was took bone, fish scale, just junk, and mash it up and put it as the first product. To you, sir, I give you an F for the first product. Okay? Second ingredient is wheat flour. Third, brewer's dried yeast. It's like he was making beer, which I can't hit him on that because most do that. Gluten meal. Okay, the 3 products that I just read off are binders of protein. Those are junk. Then he put spirulina in there, which I give him kudos for because that's higher. Spirulina is higher on the list than most. And then fish oil, which is really good. And then he's got garlic, which is about, I don't know, 7th or 8th on the list. And then there's a lot of like blah, 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 stuff I can't pronounce. He has MSG in here. Most of you know what MSG is. Most of you don't know. You go into a Chinese restaurant and it says no MSG, and you're like, woo, no MSG, I'm really excited. I'm going to get my my number 22. Like you heard on my video on YouTube, my wife ordered a crab rangoon, probably no MSG. We were excited. If your fish complain of headaches and pale skin, you know, their color's flushing, you might want to stop feeding Hikari BioGold if that's what you're feeding, because the MSG is probably causing that. I'm kidding, I'm kidding, I'm kidding. But that's what MSG causes. I'm not saying it would cause that in the fish. So, judging by what he's got in there, I wouldn't feed this to my fish. That's me. Somebody who says, I'm going to create a superior food than what's out there, and right off the bat grinds up bones, scales, and the byproduct and doesn't use the quality pieces of the fish, is already a step ahead, you know, a step behind the game. Now, if you're comparing yourself to Tetra fish flakes, then yeah, okay, you're definitely ahead of the game. But if you're comparing yourself to others that are quality product, you know, you might want to check yourself. Again, my opinion alone. I will not feed my fish Hikari Bio Gold. Will it kill my fish? No. Will my fish like it? Most likely, yes. The MSG is a taste enhancer, folks. That's why your fish go crazy over it. MSG is a taste enhancer. Hence why you like that food with MSG in it. Okay. So I've already said why I don't like Hikari Gold. You may see on forums and stuff, people love Hikari. Oh, my fish freaking love it. Whoa, yeah, freaking love it. That's why. My opinions. Let's talk about Omega-1 since I don't have a showpiece on my little podium here to talk about it. We had a little discussion about Omega-1 bringing out blues and yellows and people going crazy. Same as Hikari, you can walk into PetSmart, Petco, local fish store, pretty much anywhere, grab it off the shelf, most of these foods, grab it off the shelf, throw it in the tank. Let me talk about the guaranteed analysis of Omega-1. Crude protein, 42%. Crude fat, 11%. Fiber 2, moisture 8.5, ash 8%, minimum phosphorus 0.5%. Now, this is for the Supercolor Omega-1. I'll clarify that. Number 1 ingredient, whole salmon. I do give Omega-1 kudos for that. Whole salmon. Then they come in with halibut. We don't know what kind of halibut. Could be the junk parts of halibut, so I've got to dock them a couple points on that. Then we got a seafood mix, including krill, rockfish, and shrimp. Again, they could just be putting that in there for marketing purposes. It could just be junk, crushed bones, scales, all that stuff. Wheat flour, wheat gluten, fresh kelp. Now, all this sounds great. Everybody that's listening is like, yeah, I feed my fish Omega-1. Well, I reached out to Omega-1, got an email back, and I also was doing some research on the internet, was checking out some forums. I even checked out a couple guys that do analysis on fish food and stuff. And all of the ingredients that are listed on the back of Omega-1 cannot be trusted. Shed a tear now, folks. Shed a tear. So Omega-1, if somehow you come across this YouTube video, I have now put you on notice. I will not feed my fish Omega-1 anymore. And this is why. Each of the first ingredients, including those 3 mixed seafood deals, are listed at their wet weight. The last time I checked, this was a dry pellet. Which means that was at 80% of their weight. So, folks, that may not be the true placement of the ingredient. And I shouldn't even say may not. That's not the true placement of their weight. So those 3 ingredients, those top 3 ingredients should be lower on the list. That's the truth. That's kind of sad. So you may be feeding your fish wheat flour, wheat gluten, kelp, and then whole salmon, halibut, seafood mix. And some of you may say, whatever, it's cheap. That's fine. Is it going to kill your fish? Clearly not. But if you're trying to feed your fish quality food, Omega-1's not it. I'm feeding my fish Hikari Gold before I'm feeding my fish Omega-1. Now I'm going to quote somebody. This was off the internet. Requests to Omega-CS to Omega-1 to see actual percentage of wheat found in their foods have been unanswered. An indication the wheat content exceeds the less than 20% ideal ratio, and possibly even the more generous 30% ratio allowed for herbivores and omnivores. So, Omega-1's dodging emails because they may be I say again, maybe putting more than 30% wheat as a filler for their food. Omega-1. Super color. Sick. Jerks. Okay. So that was Hikari and Omega-1. Now I'm putting Omega-1 pretty low on this list, so I'm not even going to talk about Omega-1 anymore and Hikari Bio Gold. I'm going to talk about Cobalt real quick. Cobalt is relatively new, and there is a lot of junk in there. Protein's 45, 10% crude fat, 4% crude fiber, 1% phosphorus, 5% moisture. Salmon fish meal, wheat flour, DeHold soybean meal, brewer's dried yeast. There is not very much good talk on the internet about this other than people that are feeding it to their fish say they see some great things happening. But if you break down some stuff, guys, they use cornstarch in their food. Fish don't digest cornstarch. And if they do, it's not good. So you're actually doing your fish an injustice. So I would not feed your fish Cobalt if I were you. That's that's me giving you advice. You don't have to take it. If you're feeding your fish Cobalt, I might switch to another food. I'd put Cobalt under Omega-1, but I think Cobalt's actually more expensive than Omega-1 too. So if you're feeding your fish Cobalt, feed them Omega-1 at least. That's all I'm going to say about that. Cobalt's not a fish food that I would recommend to anybody. I'd recommend Omega-1 before I recommended Cobalt. Now guys, that's video number 1. We talked about Hikari Bio Gold. We've talked about Omega-1, and I've touched base on Cobalt. The next video, we're going to talk about some New Life Spectrum. We're going to talk about Dainichi. And we're going to talk about an 8 veggie flake and a super soft spirulina pellet. Thank you so much for tuning in, and please watch video number 2.